Welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast, where it's all about fixing your marriage without your husband's conscious effort so that you can feel desired, taken care of, and special, even if your relationship feels completely hopeless. I'm Laura Doyle, and today we're going to talk about what to do when your husband is nicer to another woman. My guest Jean's husband was the controlling one in their marriage, but things were so bad between them that their son was scared they would divorce. And Jean herself thought her husband would leave. But she made a few changes to the way she showed up in her marriage. And today, Jean says that she and her husband are happy and respectful and that they like to hang out together. They have a peaceful and loving home. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. And then the Worst Relationship Advice of the Week award goes to a cute story with a pithy moral at the end that makes it seem totally true, but it's totally false. All of that's coming up. But first, I want to talk about what to do when your husband is nicer to another woman. One of the worst feelings is when you're not getting much of your husband's time to begin with, and then you hear his voice get all warm and happy when he's talking to the neighbor or on the phone to a coworker or to the kid's teacher. It's hard not to take it personally. Or if he's always texting a friend who's a woman and doing nice things for her, it's downright scary. Shouldn't he be treating you, his own wife, at least as sweetly as he's treating her? Shouldn't he fix the cabinet at your house instead of dropping everything to go to her house to unclog her sink? How do you tell him that he's being inappropriate and have him really hear you and stop embarrassing you? Especially if you've already told him and he's acting like it's no big deal, even though it's hurting you. You don't deserve that. But how do you get him to give you what you do deserve? Here are 3 ways to respond when your husband is being nicer to another woman and you want him to stop that and be nicer to you. Number 1, stop giving her oxygen. Of course, you wish he'd just stop paying any attention to her because that's taking away from the time and energy he could be spending with you. But what if you stopped giving her airtime first? What if you stopped thinking about her and talking about her and checking to see if he's texted her and all other forms of shopping for pain? I know it feels like that's keeping you safe, knowing the ins and outs of his conversations with her and whether they've gone over the line. But consider the possibility that your focus on the woman he's being nicer to is making her presence in your lives bigger, not smaller. What if you just focused on other things you enjoy, and gave her no oxygen? That can be challenging, I know. But here's something you can do instead of fretting and focusing on her. It's number 2. You can make a list of 22 things. Consider making a list of all the ways your husband makes your life better, all the ways that he is nice to you. Think of all the things he does every day, things that he's done for years that lighten your load, that contribute to your kids' lives, that improve your home and make you laugh. And then I invite you to say 3 of them to him directly today. So it could be very simple things. He made coffee or dinner. He works hard to support the family. He told a dad joke and made everybody groan. Or he locks the doors before bed. Or he got the Wi-Fi working again. Or he took out the trash. Or he put the trash out on the curb on trash day. When you get to 22 things on your list, you'll have 1 week's worth of gratitude if you give him 3 a day, and 1 bonus gratitude that you can express to him too. But why do that? I mean, why be so nice to him when he's being nice to some other woman? Isn't that just rewarding his bad behavior? Well, it's not him I'm thinking about. I'm suggesting you focus on what you're enjoying about your husband instead of what you don't like, because what you focus on increases. If you continue to focus on what you don't like, that's going to continue to be your experience, in my experience. But if you focus on how wonderful he is and how much he does for your happiness, you're going to experience more of that, in my experience. When you're expressing your gratitude, you're already going to be halfway to suggestion number 3, which is to be pleasable. If your husband is being nicer to someone else than he is to you, it might seem like you should punish him to show him that that's not okay. But then you'd be giving yourself a permanent scowly face, which means you're going to look like that grouchy teacher that nobody liked at school, which means you're also going to feel pretty miserable. You can't wear that disapproving face and still feel good at the same time, as you already know. You'd also be discouraging your husband from being nice to you because you'd be signaling that he can't please you no matter what he does. So why should he try? If your most wanted outcome is to have him be nicer to you than he is to another woman, then you'll want to reinforce that you're pleasable. You can do that by smiling when you see him. And it's true, he may be surprised if you do that, especially if you've been crying or scowling or raging at him a lot lately. He may wonder if you've been hit in the head recently. Why the sudden smile? Well, if he asks, you can just tell him that it feels good to smile and you just like to feel good. Or you can tell him you made a list of things you're grateful for and it made you smile. Or you could admit that you're happy to see him. And if all three of those suggestions sound like the opposite of what you should do when he's being nicer to another woman, I get it. It's not how I was trained early on either. And I didn't decide to start focusing on how I was showing up instead of what he was doing until things got really bad. But once I found that switch and I flipped it, I not only learned how to be nicer to myself, I also attracted all the niceness I'd been missing from my husband again. If you've already tried the conventional approach, like trying to punish your husband for being nicer to another woman, then what do you have to lose? Consider experimenting with bringing the grateful, smiling, nice you back to the relationship. Something big is happening on the Laura Doyle campus, and you're invited. In January, I hosted a free 5-day Adored Wife Challenge, and thousands of women joined to take the practical steps to make their marriages last and thrive. And even I was amazed at the astounding results they got. We're about to start the 5-day Adored Wife Challenge again, where I'll share my best stuff for free. And the coaches are hosting a week of pre-challenge inspiration starting on August 15th, 2022. So register now at lauradoyle.org/challenge so you don't miss any of the action, because this only happens twice a year. Join us on our mission to end world divorce and go to lauradoyle.org/challenge. I'll see you there. My guest Jean's husband was the controlling one in their marriage, and things were so bad between them that their son was scared they would divorce. And Jean herself thought her husband would probably leave. But she made a few changes to the way she showed up in her marriage, and today, Jean says she and her husband are happy, respectful, and they like to hang out together. They have a peaceful and loving home. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. Jean, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me.
So take us back to the battle days. What was happening?
Okay. So my husband and I have been together over about 29 and a half years. And so the first several months seemed wonderful, together all the time. And in the fall, I knew he was a football coach, but I didn't realize how much he was going to be gone away from me. So pretty soon I started begging for his attention and his time, and the things that we would do together seemed like it was just all revolved around eating. And so I'd be like, well, if he's having another piece of pizza, I'm going to have another piece of pizza. And pretty soon then I was getting, insecure with myself for putting on weight and just feeling, just needy. I was so needy with him. And then I would beg for attention, and he would just like turn the TV up louder sometimes, and I'd get the silent treatment a lot, or he'd yell, he'd slam doors, he'd leave, but he would leave. And I thought, oh, he's leaving forever and he's going to go find somebody else. And he would come back like an hour or two later with groceries. Do you want a burger? So that was just his way. He just had to escape a little bit. And I was in the meantime, like calling my friends and venting, and anybody who would listen, I would talk to, and I was just so worried, and I would cry, and I would go into what we call NET with this program, needless emotional turmoil. And I must have cried almost every day for many, many years because I did not know how to deal with. I was so sensitive and he was not. I mean, not that he's not a sensitive person, but he just didn't want to have to deal with me being so needy. And so anyway, there was many, many times that I would complain and nag. And if we go on a trip, I complained if I didn't get to do exactly what I wanted all the time. And so one time, our son was probably like 7 or 8, I can't remember. And we took him to Los Angeles, and I was mad because I wanted us to do like the Hollywood tours. It was kind of stupid. But so anyway, he just totally didn't want to listen to me anymore. So we didn't do it. And so then that's just one example where I would just complain and nag. And then by the time it was just a few days for the trip, and a few days later, or the last night, we went out for supper, and he just said, "This is the last trip I'm ever taking with you." And I cried the rest of the night. And we were both in the military at the time. And I told him, this is so mean. I can't believe I said this, but I said, "Well, remember when you turned down going to Iraq?" I said, "Maybe you should go for 6 months." I feel terrible that I even said that, and I could tell he was kind of crying a little bit. And then I felt horrible, and he was trying to be nice to me the next day and buy me coffee. And nope, I was so stubborn. I feel terrible. And I was always on his page about everything. But anyway, I told him when we got back from that trip that we needed to go to marriage counseling. And so we agreed to do Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage. It was just a thing through the Guard. And it was actually a really funny, and it was good, and we both liked it. But we had tried in the past to go a couple times, and all it would do is cause a fight, because we'd be complaining about each other, so we'd get home. And so it was like 3 years ago, I felt so lost, and like we needed some help. So I just Googled how to deal with a crabby husband, because of course I was never crabby. So I found you. And the funny thing is, last night I thought, well, if I'm going to say this story, I better make sure it shows up. So I Googled it, and your name didn't come up for that, because I suppose it's, I know you're on there for so many other things, but I think it was just like the timing. It was meant for me to find you right at that time. And so I read your book. It was either The Empowered Wife or The Surrendered Wife. And then the other one I got on audio. So I listened to both of those like right away. And honestly, within I started with using duct tape. So we would be like sitting in the living room, across from each other. And I would just be looking at my phone or reading the paper or something, just to try to keep busy. So I wasn't constantly interrupting him or talk. I used to feel like we had to talk all the time. And so so then pretty soon he started, one time he came over. Well, that first morning he came right over and sat by me on the couch to show me something on his phone that he was messaging with his friends. He had never done that. For several years, he had been kind of just keeping his phone away from me, because at one point I was starting to snoop. I was always on his page. I always wanted to know who he was texting with, who he was talking to, who's making you smile or laugh, and I was so jealous over that. And so when I found you and your skills and started putting them to use, I can't even, one example is, I think I'd already told you at one point on another call that I expressed desires that I wanted to go to this county fair. And so we did. And a few minutes after we got there, he was watching, we walked over to the demolition derby. And then so anyway, a few minutes later, I said, well, I'm going to just go walk and do, look at the exhibits myself. And so I got a text from him a few minutes later, and he had sent me a little video, just like a 10-second video of what he was watching. And he wrote on there watching the demolition derby with my bride at the county fair. And I don't even know if he called me his bride the week that we got married. So I was like, okay, these skills work. I couldn't even believe he had said that. And he was, and then the next day we went to the street fair in our hometown, and he started looking at these kind of larger Scrabble pieces. And all of a sudden he came, and I just thought, just let him be. Don't even ask what he's doing. Pretty soon he came up with all the letters in our names, the last name, our son's name, and mine and his. And he put it together kind of like a crossword puzzle. And then he found a bigger board on top that would go on top, and it says family. And I thought, okay, sure, that's great. Well, we got home, and so many times I would say it would nag on him to get something done around the house. He did it without me. He hung it up probably within like 40 minutes. And he used a level and a ruler. And
Oh my
so,
gosh.
yeah, it was so sweet. And so there's so many times that I'm like, why do I start getting insecure about us still, when I need to just look at that wall, and that shows how much he loves us, So,
Oh.
so that was one really big telling thing. Just yesterday, we came home from the lakes, and here he had gotten some Amazon packages, and he had ordered new dishes for us. And he didn't tell me he was doing that. So that was a surprise. And there's just and then okay, so 3 years ago is when I found you, and I started using your skills, and I didn't keep up with him for a while. Every once in a while I'd get back to him. And then I kept thinking, okay, well, I know him. I don't, So
Yeah.
anyway, but
Yeah.
I would talk to one of my sisters, and every time that we weren't getting along, I would say, I need to go back to my Laura Doyle book. And she said, well, stop just saying that and get back to it. Start using, And so I finally thought, all right. So December is kind of rough for us. And then I started using the skills right before Christmas, this past Christmas. And we had a great Christmas. I tried to appreciate everything like he got for me for Christmas, because one year all I did was he bought me a bunch of clothes, and they all had clearance tags on, because he knew I loved to shop clearance racks, but I returned every single item. I was so unappreciative. That was years ago. But so, this time I tried to just make sure I was receiving graciously, and tell him how much I love the stuff. And I truly did, because I knew that everything he had got me, and, which even if it wasn't much, I just try to thank him now more and be appreciative of him, and know that, I even can tell him he's my hero now for just little things he does. And at first, when I tried using some of these like spouse fulfilling prophecies that we call, when I would start using those, at first I thought, oh, he's never going to fall for these lines. But now they just come out, they just kind of roll off my tongue sometimes. And he eats it up. I mean, he does not mind. And I've called him my hero a couple times, just for even the littlest things, like opening or like reaching something up in the cupboard that I can't. And so I'll just say it kind of cute, and he likes that.
Oh, so I would love to
And
hear
yeah, I'm sorry.
what's an example of like a spouse fulfilling prophecy you've used with your husband?
Let's see here. Okay, so oh gosh. Well, I try to turn things around too now, and remember, he wants to be my hero. He wants to make me happy. And so just the little things, where I would have thought something so negative before, and now, now I just, like I said, just call him my hero, because I'm like, yeah, he really is. And he wants he wants the best for me. And so I'm sorry, I can't think of an example for that right at the moment, but I know I'll come up with one. So one time too, I said, for a while I used to get so mad because he would go to bed so late, and I would go to bed earlier. And so one time he went to bed maybe around 11 or something, and I came in the room and I said, oh, look how cute you are going to bed so early on a Friday night. And other times I would have been like, really? You're going to bed so early and you can't even spend time with me? So I try to turn it around into a positive and look at the cute things. And like, so everybody loves him, my family, his friends, my friends. And I was just seeing the negative things. I was not focusing on all the great things he does for us as a family. And so now I just really try to see the funny side of him too. Or if he would say stuff and I felt like it was like the joke was more on me, now I just laugh along with him too. And so also, like, through this program, I've learned so much about self-care. And I do so many more things where I'm not sitting there. I'm not on his page anymore as much. I'll catch myself once in a while, like, oh, who was he texting? And now I'm like, no, don't even care. Don't even go there anymore. And that makes so much, it makes our marriage so much better. And, he just knows he can, he can just be himself, and he doesn't have to worry about me nagging on him. And what else there was? Oh, so back, January 1st, on New Year's Day, we were sitting there, and I'd gotten a note from our credit card thing saying that there was like a $167 charge for a hotel room. And I thought, what's that about? And I thought, oh gosh. And he has never, ever shown that he's ever, stepped out on me at all. But so I just started getting kind of nervous. I thought, keep your mouth shut. And so all of a sudden he came out of the living room, or into the living room, and told me he was going to take us on a trip. So he took us to Florida, and it was going to only be 4 days. And then a couple of weeks before our trip, he said, well, I changed it. We're going to go for 8 days now. So I was like, so here I could just create all these, negative thoughts in my head. And he was doing things for us as a family. And here I would just, so that was really neat. And then I asked him. So then I saw, I came across your 5-day challenge in January. And so I did that. And then I saw about the joining the real, ridiculously happy wives. So I had asked him, I said, okay. So I expressed my desire purely. And I said, I said, I think that our marriage seems a lot happier lately. And I said, so would you mind if I joined this program? And it's like a marriage coaching. It's not counseling, and you don't have to do anything except for appreciate your happier wife. So he texted me that.
That's a great way to phrase it.
Yeah. And so he said, sounds great. And I thought, what? I couldn't believe it, because, it's not that cheap. So I thought, okay, I'm going to just do it for a month. Well, I loved it so much. And I tried to be in on every Zoom call that I could. Wow. And I wanted to be present on the calls, just because I felt like if I was, cooking or doing something else and didn't have the video on, that I wouldn't be as involved and listening. I might miss some stuff. And so that was total self-care for me. I couldn't stand being away from these calls. And so I ended up, I'd ask him nicely every time, can I do it another month? He's like, I don't care, whatever you want. And okay. So I did it for 5 months, and it was the best thing I've ever done for myself and for my marriage. And I know he can, if I wanted to continue, I know he would be fine with it. But I thought, I got to prove to myself that I can do it on my own too. So I was just so honored.
You've come a long way. Yeah. You've come such a long, long way. I hear. Yeah. So you're a much better receiver now, it sounds like when he gets gifts, you find something to love about them, and you're thankful for them. And it sounds like instead of complaining about him, you're now calling him your hero, and sort of finding, expecting
and
the
I
best.
feel it too. It's genuine. Before I was like, oh, what are we doing together? We have nothing in common. And I kept thinking he was a control freak. And now, like, just the little things, like, seriously, like loading the dishwasher and folding clothes, we are total opposites. We don't do the same, on that. And now I'm like, I just think it's kind of, I just laugh it off now with just the little stuff. It's not worth fighting over, and I don't fuel the fire anymore. If he, kind of throws out bait, like you say, I just try not to. If it's something that I might have done something that upset, annoyed him or whatever, I'll just say, I'm sorry, and actually I apologize a lot now, just for even the little things, because it makes me, like you say, clean my side of the street. And it used to at first kind of annoy me that how come he never apologizes too? But really, if my side of the street is good, clean, it doesn't matter what what he's doing. He'll, I can still survive without, I'm just happy, and I'll just walk away if something's annoying me now. And, and he'll show me his way of apologizing and just doing things for me, in other ways. It might not be verbally, but it's doing something loving for me and for our son. So
sweet. So nice. And I love he's wanting to spend time with you, obviously, because he turned a 4-day vacation into an 8-day vacation, it sounds like. So
right.
you feel much more like he's more attentive, it sounds like.
Absolutely. And another thing about that, he used to go downstairs after work, and a lot of times he would work really late, and he then would go straight downstairs and watch TV until late at night. I remember one time about a year or two ago, he like would watch TV till sometimes 1 or 2 in the morning in the summer. And I went a couple times. I went down there and like chewed him out. You should be in bed with your wife. So embarrassing. Now it doesn't bother me and now he never stays up that late like that. He a lot of times doesn't go downstairs to watch TV. He'll stay upstairs and either watch something on his iPad in the same room with me. So I'm like, okay, this is crazy. He wants to be near me, which is so nice.
So nice.
Yeah.
So he's changed, it sounds like. Has he changed?
Well, I think I have so much, and it's easier for him to be around me and stuff now. So yeah. And he probably has too. I think he realizes things that he does. And I think he's just, calmer in the house too. But that's because I kind of can't remember exactly. I just kind of set the tone, I suppose, and I won't fire back on little things. So
yeah,
it's definitely not, there's definitely still little moments, but I've learned with your skills on, just like using duct tape was probably my favorite thing, because I used to feel like I had to be talking all the time or I would interrupt him. And this has seriously helped me in so many other relationships with friends and family. I'm not interrupting as much, I think. And, and I really try to listen to them more and stuff too. And like, your books say too, you almost become more of a magnet, and people want to be around you more because you do really show more interest in them. So
you're a better listener now.
I do really think so.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a great skill to have throughout life. As you're saying, it serves you in all your relationships, not just your marriage.
Right.
So well done. Well, I want to go back for a minute, because I know you mentioned that your son was pretty scared that the two of you were going to divorce.
Yeah, he did say that one time, and he was so sad. Because he would hear us bickering and yelling, and he's like, and just even he would like, does that mean you're going to get a divorce? And I was like, no. But then, and I would try to tell him things, which I shouldn't have said a lot of things, and I would be like, well, don't do this like your dad did. And I thought, oh man, if I could redo that. But I just, but he and I talk about everything. So I think he's really grown up because, he's an only child. So he knows, that I was only trying to help him out and not, and I'm like, no, your dad is an amazing person. And he knows that they're like best friends. So they're going to go on a trip this coming weekend. And my husband said, are you sure you don't want to come with us? Because they're going to a wedding out of state in Colorado. And I said, I'm just going to stay back with the dogs, but I want you guys to have a good time. Where other times I would have been left out. And I would have felt left out. And I would have been, and I'm like, do whatever you want, go spend the money, have fun, and before that would not have been me saying that. I would have been like complaining about something or whatever. So I'm excited for them.
That is really cool. So you don't feel left out about them going.
Yeah.
So you almost sound like you're looking forward to this.
I do. I appreciate my own time now also, which before I was so needy and insecure, and I always wanted to be talking to somebody, but even just being alone with y'all on all your calls and stuff too, that really helped me. And I think I just have really grown so much through this. So I love my alone time now. And he is my hero. He it's hard for me to take both dogs out to the lakes a lot of times. So he will drive us out there and drop us off, and then he'll come back and, if he can't be out there with me at the same time. So then I'm like, I really try to thank him for all of that kind of stuff. Just the, little things like that. And he, during COVID, he had time off from work. So we bought these 2 tiny little cabins on a lake. We got a really good deal on them, and he fixed them up with his brother, and then we sold the one. And so he wouldn't show, and he'd let me help out a little bit, like with carpeting colors and the color of the siding, but he wanted a surprise for me. So one day he took me out after it was almost complete and showed me, the cabin and stuff. So there were so many times where I was like, what a control freak. He can't even, let me in on a lot of this stuff. And he actually likes to just surprise me with this stuff. And he's got great taste. He does a great job on everything. So I'm really trying to just embrace all of that on all the stuff that he does for us. So yeah. I try to really turn it around and instead of finding the negative, I just really try to see how good he is for us.
It sounds like you have a new pair of perspectacles.
Yes, I do. Yes. Thank you to you. I mean, seriously, I told so many people about you and, even if, some aren't married, some friends, but I just, or people who don't even have a bad marriage. And I just, I have a friend who started listening to you a little bit and she's like, we have a great marriage, but I'm still learning stuff from this. And so I don't know, I just really want to help others out so much. So
yeah. Well,
if we could change, and there's so many times throughout the years I just thought, I don't know how we even survived this long, but now I see us forever. So yes.
Oh, that must feel great. That must feel so good.
Well,
what impact do you think it's had on your son that your marriage is so much happier now?
Oh, it makes him happier and he wants to be around us more. He's happy. Yeah. He just, I think he's just proud of me for doing this and, and just seeing us being happy to each other and positive and being more open and I'm not complaining about his dad. So, which I feel terrible that I did that, but I didn't have the right skills. So
no one ever taught you the skills before.
Right.
I mean, along those lines, what do you think you would say to Jean if you could go back in time and tell her what you know now?
To not vent to everybody. First of all, try to not take everything he did personally, and to take care of myself and stay on my own page. That and the duct tape too, pretending that you have duct tape on, where you don't have to be talking all the time. I remember going on trip, or just a couple hours away with him for whatever events. And I felt like we had to be talking the whole time. And now when I don't, he's the one who opens up and starts talking about things. And so, and that makes me so happy, and I don't need to be, so to go back, I just think, just relax more and just learn to have fun and see the positive side of things that he was doing for me rather than, appreciate him and apologize more. And that stuff is easy once you start practicing the skills. It's just seriously. And I've also learned that this is a life skill, seriously, kind of like how people say a diet has to be a lifestyle. And that it seriously has to be for me, because when I start walking away from it, I start slipping and I start going back into my old ways. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, put some duct tape on, or just, walk away, or, just tell him whatever you think, or, I don't have to be on his paper. And so, or get some more self-care, and just give him his space. So that's what helps. And then giving him a space, he wants to come back, he wants to be around me more. So, but
crazy how that works, isn't it?
It is.
It's like opposite world. Like
right?
Thought.
Exactly.
Telling him you want him to spend time doesn't work, but just, letting him have a space and paying attention to your own happiness. It sounds like
right.
Attracted him back.
Yeah. And then also, like you talk about being the goddess of fun and light. And I know, so, it sounds kind of, for some women, if they don't know, but seriously, that just pretend, just even putting a smile on your face. One of my aunts, she just turned 83. And a couple of weeks ago, she sent me a text and said, Jeannie, how do I lose weight? Like in a couple hours, I have my class reunion today. And I just said, put a big smile on your face and go and have fun. You know what? You're not going to lose your weight now. And who cares? You're 83 years old. So I said, that's what we have to do sometimes, is just put a smile on our face and be happy and be fun to be around. And I forgot to ask her how it went, but I think if she did that, I think it was probably a success for her.
Yeah.
That's what I try to remember to do now too, is, and just be good to other people and be good to him. And, so.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, and what about a woman who is struggling like you were, where she feels so needy and he's just not paying attention to her, and she's just feels like she has to beg for his time, but she wants what you have now, where he's planning trips and inviting you on other trips that you weren't even planning to go on. And that you feel like he's really your hero. how should she start?
Oh, I would absolutely tell, and I have to other people, to many other women. I have told them about your books and about your podcast. So I say look up the Laura Doyle podcast, and that they can listen to it for free. And some of my friends and even a couple of my sisters, I don't want a lot of people around me, just because I didn't know how I was going to do on this program, but I feel really comfortable right now talking to you. So I just tell them, listen to some of the podcasts, or if you're struggling, read your book. They're very simple to understand. And the skills are so easy to use once you start. Maybe my hardest part was the spouse fulfilling prophecy. But once you start it, like I said, just something little, like, like him, like changing the light bulb or whatever, like, oh, thank you, you're my hero. Just something small like that might sound kind of foolish, but then you pretty soon start kind of believing it. And then, and then he loves it. He didn't think like, oh, stop, so I don't know. That's what I would say is seriously to search you out, or I would, try to give them advice, but I'm not a coach yet. I mean, one day I would love to be, but I have approached him on that. And right now, he, but maybe it's not in the cards right now, but maybe one day. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, congratulations to you. You definitely have a huge accomplishment here with fixing your family and no longer living in that stress and that turmoil of feeling like your marriage could end at any point.
Right. Yeah. And I didn't tell you that when we first were together, we got engaged after a year and a half. And about 6 months later, I called off the wedding. I it was so, and that's all because I was so, I needed to change. And then we ended up, I couldn't stay away from him. So we were just, we postponed it for a few years, and then and we still had issues, but it's like, I'm like, I don't want to get a divorce. I want to make this work. So yeah. So in February, we'll have our 25th wedding anniversary. It's kind of amazing to know that now I know we'll get there. So yeah.
Yeah. Now, you'll get there and it'll be a true celebration. In fact, you coming on and being a guest on this podcast is really a victory celebration.
Yes,
Like you did it. So
I was so honored to be asked to do this. I couldn't believe it. And I was going to say one more thing. I'm just drawing a blank right now, but anyway, this is the best thing I've ever done, honestly. So I tell any woman that's having issues, seriously, don't even bother with, definitely if they wanted to do the coaching and stuff, to go through your program for sure, but don't bother with counseling. And I've heard, and some of my friends, when I told them about this, they're like, yeah, but what about, it seems like you just don't stand up for yourself. And it's like, oh no, that's not true. I do, but sometimes you have to sit back and let them talk or whatever. And then, I've gotten a lot of, things have really changed for us in, just the little things that he does and some of the big things like trips. And he said that we have another one he got another trip planned for us, but he hasn't told me the details because he loves to surprise me on stuff like that. So I'm just going to enjoy it. And if people don't believe in it, they don't have to. So it's the best thing I've ever done.
Congratulations, Jean. I give you all the credit for creating this amazing transformation in your marriage. Really great job.
Thank you so much.
Something big is happening on the Laura Doyle campus, and you're invited. In January, I hosted a free 5-day Adored Wife Challenge, and thousands of women joined to take the practical steps to make their marriages last and thrive. And even I was amazed at the astounding results they got. We're about to start the 5-day Adored Wife Challenge again, where I'll share my best stuff for free. And the coaches are hosting a week of pre-challenge inspiration starting on August 15th, 2022. So register now at lauradoyle.org/challenge so you don't miss any of the action, because this only happens twice a year. Join us on our mission to end world divorce and go to lauradoyle.org/challenge. I'll see you there.
It's the worst relationship advice. relationship advice. Yeah, it's the worst relationship advice of the worst relationship advice of the week.
And now it's time for the Worst Relationship Advice of the Week award. And the advice that has me riled up this week was sent to me by a student, and it is atrocious. So here's your anonymous shout out for sending me this cockamamie story with its ridiculous punchline. Thanks for the love and for contributing to the podcast. You're so discerning when it comes to bad relationship advice. She writes, the student that sent this to me writes, I saw this on Facebook and I thought it might qualify as the worst implied advice ever. And what she sent is a story. And I love stories. Stories are a big part of relationship coaching around here because that's how we illustrate skills and options for applying the skills. Instead of telling someone, you should stop controlling your husband, right? We share our experience in a very personal way by telling stories. So they had me at story, and this story is so deceptive because, well, let me read it to you and then you'll see what I'm talking about. It goes like this. When a group of tourists visited a crocodile farm, the owner of the place launched a daring proposal. Whoever dares to jump, swim to the shore and survive, I will give $1 million to. Nobody dared to move. Suddenly, a man jumped into the water and desperately swam towards the shore while he was chased by all the crocodiles. With great luck, he arrived, taking the admiration of everyone in the place. Then the owner announced, we have a brave winner. After collecting the reward, the couple returned to the hotel, and upon arrival, the manager told him he was very brave to jump. And then the man said, I didn't jump. Someone pushed me. His wife smiled. Moral, behind every successful man, there's a woman who pushes him. No. First of all, no. Okay, that's like saying moral, when you tell a lie, your nose will grow. Okay, but this is insidious because I remember reading stories like this in old magazines, like in the Reader's Digest or some other magazine, and confusing the moral with actual wisdom. I mean, if there's a story, it gives that jab at the end more weight, even though it's completely bogus. I mean, pushing my husband was not how he became successful. Trusting him, reflecting back to him that I thought he was capable, expecting the best from him, and respecting his thinking, I believe contributed greatly to his success. But pushing him, it never did. And I tried that for years because of dumb stories like this one. For that reason, the advice that behind every successful man, there's a woman who pushes him is the very, very worst relationship advice I have heard all week. Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. Next week, I'll talk about what to do if your husband doesn't understand you. In the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is, what part of I'm not eating any more cashews don't I understand?